So thank you so much. Finally, I have a pleasure meeting you again. It's been a long time, and it's a great pleasure for Forbes Georgia to host you, Mr. Vardanyan. Hope you're doing well. You're safe, in good health and spirit, as I can see. How is everything go? For now, I think you are still in Moscow, yes?
I'm still in Moscow, yes. Thank you. Gamarjoba.
Gamarjoba. But at the same time, you mentioned in your last interviews there were a few taken into consideration last period. I'm taking the period of last or 5 months. You're considering yourself to see in the nearest future more active in Armenia, where you are not doing business for this period at all. That's I know for sure. But let's begin with your current status. What you are doing so far, what are you covering, and what are the fields of your business interests for now?
First of all, so I want to say thank you for inviting me for this conversation. Remember the last time we spoke about entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship tournament, which was done by Ernst & Young, which was best entrepreneur in the year.
Worth to mention, good times.
It was different time for all of us. Yeah, absolutely. After I sold my bank 9 years ago, I became a social entrepreneur, which means I've been involved in many projects, which mainly was dedicated to the education, healthcare, the legacy. I'm very heavily involved in an area which I believe will be very critical, not only for Russian people, but also all post-Soviet Union people who face the same issue about how you can transfer your wealth to next generation, what needs to be done, how to best way organize not only the wealth transformation, but also the legacy traditions, the family tradition to the next generation. I think it's a very serious challenge for all people, and I believe it will be one of the key challenges which people will face next 20 years, because most of the people become rich in the same age, between 50 to 70 years old. Which is why for many of us it's a very new new challenge, because it's not easy to think about this type of issues, not easy to organize all the process properly. That's why I spent last 9 years trying to convince my friends and colleagues that this will be one of the most critical issues of very future life, because it's not only about the debt, it's also about the life of continuity of the consistency of transforming some important issues and values to the next generation. So I have been involved in all aspects around the human person. I've been also involved in a very important humanitarian project, Aurora, which I co-founded with my friends from the United States. I've been also involved in building some communities and societies. I believe it's 21st century. We're all becoming more and more a member of different communities. That's why making this answer a little bit shorter, I've been involved in many projects, around 60 projects, which all been dedicated to the human person, human values, communities, legacy, health, education, and sustainable development. Because I'm quite sure what we are in a stage of transformation, which will bring new opportunities, new challenges for all of us, and I think it will be one of the key issues for all of us, how we can be successful in the new reality, and who we are, and how we can measure our success.
Thank you so much for this intro. Let's be more specific in regards of social entrepreneurship. I'm more than sure you have the precise explanation of it. At the same time, we're not talking about some just social projects or charity. We're talking about absolutely clear business-wise decision-making within the business, and at the same time, which means your social impact and responsibility within this field of business. Am I right in this understanding?
Yeah, last 20 years with my colleagues and partners, we try to develop some new model, which is quite unusual and not very well understood by many of people. And I will try to explain it using maybe one or two examples. For example, we did around let's go first. We did during the last 20 years, we did around 700 projects in Armenia, in Armenian world. With around $400 million total money which was invested in these projects. But what we try to do a couple of things. First, we had a vision, and we tried to build this project not like by emotions, but also by very important vision and goals which we put in priority. Second, we understood ourselves with one of the challenges in Armenia is the size, is a small size, and getting big investment or big donation is not easy. That's why we said, okay, how we can make something different. Say, okay, let's do big anchor projects which can really transfer industry or region, and we hope this will become example of driver of transformation around them. Third, can we combine philanthropic project, charity project with the social impact project, with the commercial project, and try to help each other? And one of the best example is the project around Tatev Monastery. I'm very proud with one of the medieval universities monastery in Armenia named Tatev Monastery, which is far from Yerevan. It's a 4 or 5 hours drive from Yerevan, and it's a very rural area. And many of the villages around this monastery were suffering because there was one big high unemployment and was not enough tourists coming to this place, no jobs. And people really didn't see a future of them staying in this part of the Armenia. When we came to this place, we realized is one of the important elements will be restoring the monastery, which was destroyed by earthquake in 1931. But at the same time, we realized we can make the whole reconstruction of a monastery, but nobody can access this monastery because it's too far from Yerevan. The road is very bad. And we built the longest cable car in the world to this monastery, which was done by a Swiss company, Doppelmayr Garaventa, which allowed people to save around 1 hour, but also more importantly, create some new attraction to people to come to this place and visit this place, which generate big flow of the tourists. In 2019, before the pandemic started, we got from 4,000 tourists, which was coming to this place in 2009, we got 150,000 people who came and bought tickets, which means we got around 200,000 people total who came to this place to visit monastery. And because of this flow of the tourism, there are around 47 small bed and breakfast hotels and guest houses was open, restaurants was open, souvenirs, people started to sell souvenirs, and you can see how the pure philanthropic project, charity project, restoring the monastery, building the social impact investment, because it's not will pay back your investment in 30 years time, generate opportunities to also build around this place the restaurants, hotels, and souvenir sales, which was very important for many people around this ropeway. I think it's one of the example how we try to implement our vision, and it was a very good example of bringing together commercial, social impact, and charity projects under one umbrella.
I do got you, and at the same time, you still remain by the Forbes as 116 in the list. At the same time, pointed at a billionaire venture philanthropist. But you are speaking last month quite actively, and I missed this opportunity. And thank you again for the fact that we can talk about that you are speaking loudly about the kind of Armenia that should be built. I cannot say that you were not talking about it before. At least I followed some quotes coming personally from you, but you became like more active in this regards, revealed at the same time this phenomena by the public opinion polls, and at the same time, let me quote once again, a readiness to be both a janitor and the leader of the country, let me say so.
You made slight translation.
I did.
Was more rude.
Yeah, I'm trying to make it like as much as I can. Please, what kind of situation do we have so far right now, while you are pointing such activities on your behalf?
First of all, I will start from the very important point, saying I've been actively involved of the building of future of Armenia last 20 years. It's not just nice sentence I can prove by the project that I've been doing in Armenia and doing all these years, and the way how it was organized. It was not like emotional charity activity. It was done by strategic vision about what needs to be done in Armenia. Many people ask me, why is Tatev Monastery, for example, or Dilijan school? Is because your parents from Dilijan or your wife from Tatev? I said no, because it's strategically this places was chosen by our consultant company who describe how we see the future of Armenia development. That's why, first of all, I want to say the last 20 years I've been doing with clear purpose how I see and how we see, not myself only, but with the hundreds of partners and people who support us, see future of Armenia around building around education, about excellent best standards, and many other things.
But you confirm, sorry for interruptions, that you are not doing business in Armenia last 20 years. Am I right?
Except I've been investing in the best bank in Armenia, Armenia Bank, which was we started in 2007, and then the bank became now #1 bank in Armenia. It's true. It's not, but always including this bank, the project which we've been doing also commercial. For example, we had a small tourist agency, or we had a best real estate building. We built it where is Armenia Bank now located as a headquarter. It's all been done on the purpose of developing the Armenia. That's why whatever money was made stay in Armenia and was made for making Armenia more prosper.
You still remain as a shareholder of that bank, Mr. Vardanyan?
Yes. I have a minority. I'm not anymore the controlling shareholder, but yes, I'm continuing shareholder of the bank. But I'm out of the board. A bank operator fully independent. We got international IFIs like shareholders and the management operate and control the bank fully.
Okay. Sorry for interrupting you. You've been talking about your projects.
The first point I made. The second point I want to say, of course, Artsakh. What's happened last year around Artsakh, the war, and the result of the war was heavy, hurt all of us and people who've been living in Armenia, people not living in Armenia at the time. And it was a critical moment for myself also. And I said in my interview, for me, it was very critical for many reasons. But I found myself that I need to make a choice to be more active or stay out of what's happening in Armenia at all. And this is the second reason why maybe I become more vocally present to the current public area. The third, I'll say, it was also very important because of the post-war trauma. The crisis that we are facing is not only linked to the war around Karabakh, but overall existential challenge about the future of Armenian nation. Not only who be living in Armenia, but also the people who live in different countries. And I believe this crisis is much more important, much more serious compared many other things what's happened with us during the last years. Because not only political crisis, not only the crisis around the war, which we lost during last year, but more about what kind of the future we see like nation and how we see ourselves building the state in Caucasus, how we see ourselves keeping our culture and historical heritage in different places around the world, and many other things. So I become more vocal, and it is done by understanding what this is the time what you need to make your decision. Are you in or you not? About caring about your nation, caring about next generations, Armenians who will grow up and will want to see a future linked to Armenia or not.
And you're in, or you always been in?
I always been in, but maybe what changed, I've been more proactive, also talking not about the future of Armenia, because we've been doing Armenia 2020 projects 20 years ago. We are starting doing Armenia 2041 project now. It was unfortunately symbolic, which is exactly this horrible events happened in 2020, the year of the finalizing our first period of vision of Armenia and how Armenia where to go, how Armenia where is Armenia going, and how it's developing. And it was unfortunately the time of the serious analysis of why we did something, what happened, I say differently, how it's always happened, what was done wrong, and why we achieved what we achieved. It was very important for me to understand that you cannot just look forward for 20 years, which is I believe is very important, and I continue to believe it's very critical to be long-term oriented. At the same time, also I realize now, because of the current situation, it will be critical to talk and to think about how you can improve some of these situations now, not in 10, 20 years' time.
At the same time, you're pointing that due to the local polls and surveys, what your team is doing permanently in Armenia, I'm taking and quoting you for one of your last interviews done with Russia Business Consulting, and you're pointing three directions of the populations, how they think or feel or perform. At the same time, Ruben Vardanyan is pointing that it is not a classic way how he's going to be a part of Armenian politics. What do I mean by this? I'm talking about formalities like political party, some legal entities and things like that. You are more talking about some sort of movement to some sort of new ideology, those who really needs drive, who wants to speed up with economic recovery and things like that. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're right. I think you took the right points. I'm convinced what we needed is nation leaders who will come together. It cannot be many of us, but it needs to be at least dozens of the people who will come from different professions, but people who nation trust, people who really feeling responsible for the future of not only their own life and their own families, but also for the nation. People who will come together and define the strategy, not only talking about Armenia, but Armenian world in general, because we have a lot of issues and a lot of challenges which we need to find the right answers, which not only linked to what's happening in Armenia, but is also what's happening around the world. That's why I believe we are in a stage of our development where we need to find the platform where people can come together, talk frank and open about the diagnosis which we need to put honest and transparent for ourselves without building any illusions and dreams, and try to find the medicine how we can improve the situation with the understanding of reality. And this is the critical for people who not only living in Armenia, but also not only people who live in Armenia, but also people who live in other part of the world. And it was for me, it was very important also to say this is not only question about how you manage the country, but also how we manage the nation, which includes not only government institutions, but also public institutes. It includes the formal rules, but also informal rules, because we all know, like you've been in Georgia, it's You have a legislation, but also you have informal traditions, informal rules, which people can follow or don't follow, depends on the changes happening around us. This is why I believe we are in a stage where we need to think seriously about not only how we're managing country, how the country is will be built by state institution, but also how in general society can become unified and collaborative to each other to build future of Armenia like state and country, but also Armenian nation, which is much more complicated, much more difficult.
Absolutely. At the same time, has that proper diagnosis happened of what has happened? I'm sorry for this misspelling. What has happened last year, October, November? What do you think? If this analysis or diagnosis in a proper way has been done already, or it's still under some so-called shock period?
You know, we are both representing the Christian, one of the oldest Christian nations in the world, and we have a very old tradition. And the first year, we staying calm and remembering of memory of the people who passed away during some accident or whatever happened with them during the. I'm sorry. We all remember the people who passed away. And this is the first year very critical to be more concentrated about insight and try to find what happened, what the memory of, how we keep the memory, what needs to be done to keep the memory for a long time, forever. So first year after the war is over, we spent a lot of time trying to bring our emotions back, really make the right diagnosis what's happened and why it's happened, where we are today, what's happening with us. And that's why it was a year of the collecting information, collecting the different views, creating some infrastructure. And it was very important for me and for my friends and my partners to build a platform to go forward, but also being not silent, but being more cautious and more delicate and the memory of the people who passed away in the last war.
At the same time, you're calling for, I cannot say you're calling for, you're pointing it as a social movement which unites more than 100,000. You're pointing and acting, attracting at least those families who are also outside Armenia to be a part of it. How this movement, and is this movement getting bigger and bigger, at least after the last interviews you made to international media?
You know, I'm very proud to say it was amazing result we achieved in a very short period of time. We start our movement in end of April. It was named Future Armenian, and we got, like you said, 108,000 people from 107 countries, and it was important element of going forward, building something for the future, because we found that the many people living in different parts of the world, they care about future of Armenian, they care about what's happening in Armenia, and they want to be part of this. It's a movement which we try to bring people without political choices, without being politicized, and it was very important for us to concentrate attention of these people around the key challenges and key issues which we need to handle together. And this was important. What we said to the people is not like you're joining some movement which knows all the answers. We try to find these answers together. We try to find this answer together, but also try to make changes together. So we've been doing a lot of work, homework now, preparing this platform for going next step now to start the project and implementing some of the ideas in the reality. last Monday, we made the announcement about the new project which we started just 3 days ago. It's a project about education. We started the executive education platform. Name is Matena because it's Matena Daran. It's our famous library of the unique antique books and manuscripts, and it will be executive education program for private and public services people, because we believe it will be one of the key element of success to bring best leaders and best managers to the Armenia to implement some of the very ambitious projects. We are
Volkova and your other educational activities, are they still on track and you are still a part of it, Mr. Vardanyan?
Of course, I'm doing a lot with education. Like I said, it's one of my priority. I'm quite heavily involved in the Skolkovo Business School and Management School, which I'm very proud to be one of the founders and the father of the idea. And we celebrate 15th anniversary a couple months ago of the project, which I'm very proud to be part of this. And the Skolkovo is a partner of Matena project, and I'm also see it's important synergy effect between our different projects, including in Russia or outside Russia. And we have a project in Roots on Wings, for example, which is done in Belgium. It's also educational project for education, and it will be linked to the Matena project. Why we are trying to bring our all resources together to help Armenian leaders become more professional, more successful, which I believe is very important.
Okay.
The second project we're doing is we are starting a campaign of bringing back to Armenia 50,000 families from around the world, people who believe future of Armenia, who wants to be part of future of Armenia, who wants to invest and put their own time, which is most valuable asset for all of us. And this is a big project, big ambition, which we just announced recently, and we're doing this big campaign about bringing Armenians back to their home. And the third, we will do big strategic center, which will be strategic center for the region, not only for Armenia, but also for our neighbor countries, including Georgia, which we want to better understand what's happening in our neighbor countries in Armenia, how we can build something together, and how we can make more success with ourselves, with our friends, and also try to understand better what's happening with our not easy neighbors, I would say this gently.
At the same time, I want to remember one of your statements coming from in the middle of the war. I think you were in Yerevan in that period. Correct me if I'm wrong. When you pointed and made a public statement delivered to your Georgian friends and relatives, authorities, all of them. Then during the war with Azerbaijan, you highlighted the importance of being neutral in this position, let me say so. My question is, your statement was a part of sort of accused Georgian side that we were side by side with Azerbaijan, or what did you mean by this statement? Could you be more specific?
No, Georgia, I'm proud to be part of Tbilisi culture. My mother was born in Tbilisi and grew up in Tbilisi, and I spent a lot of time in Georgia and Tbilisi when I was the young child. And one of the things I was always been surprised to living in the center of Tbilisi, where was the private yard where it was like 4 floors building with the big balcons, and in this building was living
Tbilisi yard.
Yeah, Tbilisi yard, absolutely, Tbilisi yard. It was not far from Iberia Hotel. And
Radisson, right?
Yeah, now in Radisson, it was time it was Iberia Hotel, and it was the house, whereas people was living 2 or 3 generations already together, and it was people with different nationalities. It was Yazidis, it was Georgian, Armenian, Greeks, German, Jewish, Russian, Azeris. It was never been anyone look what nationality you are. But what one of the important things was in this family type of the yard that you've been living. When these 2 neighbors was fighting against each other, the other stay neutral and try to make the peace, but not trying to stay from one side or the other side. And for me, it was very important message for my friends in Georgia. But we're living in a very transparent world. We're living in a world which everything becoming known sooner or later. And so I said we need to stay like being important for all of us. The way which not be only today's good, but also later, 10 or 20 years time, when everything will become public, it will be no moment that you will feel shame. So my message was keep this Georgian Tbilisi, I would say not Georgian, maybe I'm sorry to say it's more Tbilisi tradition, and try to avoid to be involved part of this sometimes very unpleasant situation that happened also in this yard. Also not always been nice big parties. Sometimes it was also not a pleasant discussion between the neighbors, but it was important to find a way how you can continue your relation afterwards. That's why my main message was try to be neutral and try to help as much as you can to bring the peace for both sides, not do anything else.
I think Georgia did its best.
I hope also. I don't have information because, as I say, I didn't when I made my speech. I didn't have information. I don't have information now. I'm just saying we all know it was a lot of speculations, a lot of rumors, a lot of different things. But I'm just saying what we all know about this. It's sooner or later everything what happen around this world will become in a public, and we hope we will be only happy to see continue good and friendly neighbor relationship between Armenia and Georgia.
Another, let me say, Georgian quotation of yours, due to your new agenda, let me say so, what you are trying to form within the Armenia and your movement was the following. Let me quote it, that Ruben Vardanyan is something like Armenian Ivanishvili. And if we take into consideration all your social projects, what you've been implementing during the years and things, all this period, so it's worth to mention that this quotation or mentioning, maybe I don't know from whom personally did it come from, but my first question is, before we go to the similarity of yours with Bedina Ivanishvili, do you know Mr. Ivanishvili personally?
Yes, I know him quite well. I have high respect and we have good relations, and I'm very thankful to him. He was one of the donor supporter of reconstruction of Armenian church in Tbilisi, Georg, and yeah, I know him personally quite well, and I have a high respect to him.
Now let's move from the existing respect to the similarity of Ruben Vardanyan and Bedina Ivanishvili. Where do you see similarity or difference? Is this the same thing happening for Armenian reality, or the story is different? How well do you know the story of Bedina Ivanishvili's involvement in Georgian politics?
I'm not aware about things which happening in Georgia quite well. I've been a couple of times, of course, in Georgia during the last years, and I'm very happy to always come back to Georgia and to see how the Georgia is developing. During the different time, it was quite tough times also, I remember very well, in 90s especially. I don't like all this perception. I mean, and myths and illusions, which we always love to live in this type of things, George. Because, the perceptions about the simplification of this perception is one of the easy way to find the answer to many questions. I've been with people trying to put me in Ivanishvili shoes or Soros shoes or somebody else shoes. Yeah.
Agent and things. There are a lot of
a lot of, because we're trying. I've been investment banker of my previous life, and I remember when I tried to bring Russians and Western people together, how was one of my main tasks was to destroy his perceptions. But all Russians crooks, all Westerners is spies. They all hate each other. People try to simplify these all things and trying to always put white or black colors to everything. I think this is the important for all of us to understand. It's the world is complicated, world is different, and it's not copy paste. It's not the McDonald's. We're not living in a McDonald's. That's why this all simplification is just done because people trying to look backwards, not the forward. And also we understand what we need to understand what each of the human person has a different things and different characters, and each of the country has a different one. This is why it's a unfortunately or fortunately we are all different, and this is making us so interesting for the world.
Correct. Okay. My last two questions.
No, last question. Unfortunately, my time is already.
Okay, sorry. About the GDP growth. Sorry for expending your time. About possible tripling of Armenian GDP. Concrete steps, what should be done? I do understand that this question might be a part of further deep conversation,
yes.
Or then we can move with that. But you still remain with it. And just for the final confirmation, Mr. Vardanyan, let us move the GDP and etc. for the next conversation in the future. But tell me, your representation within the Armenian politics, it's not going to be formal through the political party and things like that, and you will remain as a part of the movement you are a part of with your partners and Maintainers.
I want to explain you a little bit what I mean when I saying I'm involved in the future of Armenia. And when I said to you in our interview, what we have a serious existential crisis, it's a very important statement. It's not just words. I believe we have an existential Sardarabad situation. I don't know how much you're familiar with the history of Armenian nation, but in 1918, we've been last battle close to Echmiadzin against the Turkish army, which was bigger with the Armenian army 3-4 times. And everybody wake up and everybody stood and stayed together and saved Armenian independence. So when I'm saying it's existential Sardarabad, it means I strongly believe all of us needs to forget our ambitions, needs to forget about our personal priorities, and also our sometimes difficult relation between each other, and understand this is the line which we all staying, and we need to save future of Armenia, and we need to together build bright and prosperous future of Armenia. And only can be done if we all be ready to give everything what we have and sacrifice ourselves against our future of our nation and our country. This is an important element. That's why and this is not just nice words. It's not a toast of which typically happen in Caucasus. It's a word that I believe, but words that I believe it's essential for me, essential for our nation, and because of this, I'm ready to do everything, like I said, what will be necessary for my nation and for my country. And this is the type of attitude I hope will get for many people, and I'm already getting a lot of response for people around me who are saying they are also ready to move to Armenia, despite will be sacrifice some of the family issues, will be ready to do everything possible to help Armenia and help Armenian nation to continue to stay strong and successful and prosper and happy nation, like we've been doing this thousands of years, being good contributor to the world development, not only economically but also culture, science, religion, and it's very important for me. And it's very important when I talk about this. I say it's not about political or personal ambitions, or it's not about personal ambitions about being politician or managing something. It's a question about what and how we need to come together to help Armenia and Armenian nation to stay strong and pass this period to become stronger and better and more successful and more happier, and to pass something which we faced during the last year, which hurt us, but at the same time, I think give us good opportunity to learn lessons and to become stronger.
I hope that in the nearest future we will have some time to speak about regional economy and your vision about tripling Armenian GDP and economy. So good luck to you. Thank you so much for your time. Apologies for delay.
No problem.